Kripa Samudram Chitilam Trinetram Chatadaram Parvati Vamavaham Sadashivam Rudram Chitambaresam Iti Bhavayam. Good evening, friends. I welcome you all for today's meeting on the topic of Nateswara. I chose this topic today because we'll be celebrating the Aradhra Darshan tomorrow in all the temples of Shiva all over this world. And this is my dedication to this eternal cosmic dancer, Nateswara of Chitambara. The photograph you see here is the photograph of Nataraja Swami in the Chitsava of Chittambaram, which I downloaded it from the internet. I dedicate this presentation to the holy feet of Nataraja, and let's go into the presentation. Shiva is known as the Lord of Dance. He is Nateswara. The concept of Shiva's dance is not confined to the performance alone, but it's a depiction of the universal function. The dance is just not a symbol. It takes place within each and every one of us at the atomic level at every moment. The birth of this world, the maintenance and the destruction, the covering of the soul and the revelation. These are the 5 acts of the dance. All that has been made will be unmade, and all that has been destroyed will be reasserted. So that is the dance of Shiva. The Linga Purana and Shiva Purana talk about Shiva's Tandava in 4 categories. They say it is Rudra Tandava or Ugra Tandava, Pralaya Tandava, Pradosha Tandava, and Ananda Tandava. Shiva's Tandava, when he did the dance all over the Kailash, having the body of Sati on his shoulders, he danced in a very fierce manner all over the Kailash. And that dance of Shiva is known as Ugra Tandava. The next dance of Shiva was performed at the cremation ground with all the Bhutas, Pretas, Vishashas, Yakshas, and Ganas, signifying the end of this world. So that is known as the Pralaya Tandava. Shiva's dance with Gauri at the dusk on the golden throne of Kailash, accompanied by all the celestial gods, playing different instruments and music, is known as the Pradosha Tandava. Shiva's dance that he did at Dwarkavani after winning over the Abhicharas that were sent to him by the Rishis, he danced in a state of eternal bliss. And that dance of Shiva is known as Ananda Tandavam, or the dance of bliss. Sankirtanajjatam Hindu Hema Kurari Mundastita Devabaha Sveta Kradubaraja Pinchakadaram Vyakrakratim Param Sarpam Savyakare Abhayam Damarukam Vamet Prasthanyakam Vamekam Dandakam Sayanabrishta Apasmara Prishtestitam Vajrakata Savya Dakshina Tucharam Chaudharya Vamam Padam Madhyaste Vajakinkiri Manitupura Kokistupura Padukam Dakshe Nakarakundalamstu Sutipute Vametu Patran Vidam Basmalpitam Umayuktam Tranayanam Vande Natesham Shivam. This is a salutation to Nataraja, a Dhyana Sloka of Nataraja, which means I salute to Natesha, the Shiva in the dance form, who with his matted locks of hair flowing around and studded with golden crescent moon on it. Also, he has the skull, the Ganga, the white arka flowers, and the feathers of crane, which all decorates his head and the matted locks of Shiva. He wears a tiger skin around his waist as if he is wearing a silken garment. His right hand holds the snake and shows the Abhaya Mudra. And also the upper hand holds a little damarukam. While one of his left arm is extended pointing to his raised foot, the other holds the fire, the spark. He stands on the back of Apasmara Purusha. His right leg is planted firmly and lifted up, and the left leg is lifted up. A chain of bells is balancing between these two legs. He wears a Makara Kundala in his right ears and a Patra Kundala in his left ears. With his third eye and Basma smeared all over his body, he performs the dance accompanied by Uma, and that is Nateswara. This is the meaning of the Jnana Sloka, which gives the vivid description of Nataraja as how he is. When it comes to the concept of Nataraja, it is said this: Mahesham Shankalpopetam Vimishyaram tu Sadashivam Nishkalam Shivam Ekam tu Ananda Pratibhavaye Tasmat Ananda Rupam tu Rityamurti Ityochiti. Saivam talks about three philosophical concepts of Shiva which are seen in three different forms and visualized. The first form being Mahesha, who is visualized with limbs and body like any other god figure that you see here. It could be Somaskanda or Nataraja or anything. Sadashiva is this form of Shiva who is seen with five faces of Shiva. We say Satyojata, Vamadevam, Tatpurusham, Ishanam, and Agoram. These five faces have got five manifestations, and that's called as Mahasadashiva Rupa. This is visualized as Sadashiva with five faces or 25 faces. And at times, he is also visualized as a formless manifestation as Parashiva. So that is how they manifested Sadashiva. When it comes to the Nishkala Rupam, it is said that one without any attributes and seen as just Ananda or bliss is called the Nishkala Rupam. And Nateswara is that Nishkala Rupam of Shiva who performs the Ananda Tandava. He is visualized in form and he is also visualized formless. So that Nishkala Rupam, which is eternal bliss, is Nataraja. Nateswara is the dancing Shiva. He is also known as Rityeshwara. Uttara Kamika Agama and others refer him by the name as Nrityamurti. Inscriptions of Rajaraja Chola at his big temple in Tanjavur, he calls this beautiful Nataraja image that he had created as Adavalla, the master dancer in chaste Tamil. The Lord of Chidambaram is not referred as Nataraja or Nateswara. In earlier Tamil works, he is just referred as Tiruchitrambalam Udayar and the Devi Shivakama Sundari as Tirukamakotam Udaya Periya Nayaki. Today, he is known more as Nataraja, and all the Shiva temples around the world have the Nataraja Murti in worship, and the pujas for this Nataraja Murti are performed according to the Kamika Agama. The early Tamil works of dance of Shiva, Shiva's dance is called as Kuttu, and Shiva as a dancer is called as Kuttan. The name Nataraja appears much later, only during the 13th century. However, Panini in his Shiva Sutra, describing the sound that emerges of Shiva's Damaru as Bijaksharas, he says, Nrityavasane Nataraja Rajo Nanadi Datkam Navapanchavarma. So the word Nataraja is there even in the Vedic times, referred by Panini, and that notes Shiva as the master dancer or a Nityamurti or the master of Natya Shastra. Natya was an integral part of a culture. Nritya was a part of ocular culture and sacrifices from the Vedic times. Nrityam and music, particularly the music to the Chamavedic chants and hymns, set to beautiful play in Veena, was an essential part of the Vedic yajnas that were performed in those days, like Somayaga and so on. Sage Bharata explains that there is no theme that cannot be depicted as a sculpture or as a painting. And that is particularly being done in a sculpture or painting. That theme can be only intercepted with the language of Natya of Shiva. So the Natya Shastra only gives the idea to explore what is being depicted there in the sculptural or a painting form. This is the beautiful Tandava sculpture of the Shiva in the Brihadishwara temple in the first floor. The dance of Shiva today is known as Tandava. Shiva performs this Tandava in a rhythmic pattern, adding grace and a purpose for its performance. The dance of Shiva was codified by Tandu under Shiva's directions and was passed on to sage Bharata, who authored the Natya Shastra. Bharata's Natya Shastra classifies Shiva's Tandava as combinations of Nritya Karanas and explains about 108 different types of Nritya Karanas, which are also dealt in the Saiva Agamas. When 6, 8, 9, or 10 Karanas are performed in a sequel, that particular sequel of Karanas is called as Angahara. The graceful link from one Karana to other Karana, which is just moving swiftly from one Karana to other Karana, is called as Rechaka. So all the 108 Karanas were done by Shiva, and 84 such sculptures are there, seen in the Brihadishwara temple at Tanjavur that you see here. It is said there are 35 different Angaharas which constitute the Tandava of Shiva. Natya Shastra says so. It is also, the dance of Shiva is also known as Suddha Nritya. Nritya Karanas, when are combined with gentle, suggestive movements, are known as Nritya Abhinaya. The different movements when the Karanas are performed, it is also called as Nritya Abhinaya. Sambandar in his Tevaram specifically mentions Shiva performing Chokka Nritya in the Panchabhutas along with Uma, his concert. Chokka Nritya is also known as Suddha Nritya. Sambandar says this in his Tevaram as Chokka Nityarte, when Shiva performed this Nritya at the Sandhya Kala. This is the beautiful Nataraja of Chepparai, which you see here on the Arudra Darshanam day, beautifully decked with gold ornaments and flower palettes. Natya Shastra distinctly mentions necessary of both men and males and females to master this art of Natya Shastra. Male dancing gives a support to the limbs which are very useful in warfare. Although the Saiva Agamas talk about 108 forms of Tandava that Shiva did, it restricts its depictions to only 9 modes of Tandava that it's explained in these Agamas. These 9 forms of Tandava are depicted in the sculptural forms and as bronze forms, as Nrityamurti or Nataraja, and are worshipped in temples across this country. Nataraja is the supreme form of Shiva, represented in the Ananda Tandava Rupam, commonly found in the temples. This beautiful Ananda Tandava Murti that you see here is from our Mele Chidambaram, Nataraja of Peru. The Nataraja image denotes that Shiva is the supreme god, and his dancing pose of Tandava, Ananda Tandava, denotes the Panchakrityas of Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara, Anugraha, and Tirobhava. Damarakam Srishti Rupam tu Bhujangam Sthiti Rupakam, Samharam Agni Rupam tu Tirobhavam tu Kunchitam, Abhayam Anugraham Kapi, Panchakritya Swarupakam. The Panchakrityas. What is Panchakrityas of Shiva's dance? The right upper hand, he holds the Damaru, which denotes the creation and the evolution, which is known as Srishti. The upper left hand, he holds the Agni, which denotes destruction or Samhara aspect of Shiva. The right hand, Abhaya, denotes he is the protector, the salvation for the life, and Anugraha to every human being. The left hand, pointing to the raised foot, shows its maintenance, support, or shriti. He says that you come and surrender at my feet, I take care of you. That is the maintenance or the support or shrishti aspect of Shiva's hands. The right foot on top of Apasmara depicts illusion, wheeling, or Tirobhava, as it's called. The ego is represented in the Apaspara Purusha. When you suppress your ego and surrender at the holy feet of Nataraja or Shiva, he takes care of you. He gives the Abhaya, and he is the creator, he is the destroyer, and he is the God for all. The bronze image of Nataraja, Shiva as Nataraja in Ananda Tandava Rupam that you see in all the temples, is a wonderful artistic creation of the Cholas of the 10th century, depicting all the attributes and form in this wonderful presentation. Anand Kumaraswamy, seeing beyond the unsurpassed beauty of Nataraja, he says, it is the earliest image of God that is seen in action, which no art or religion can boast of in the entire world. What you see here is the picture of an atom. The image of Nataraja denotes that he is the most minute atom, and he is also the mighty universe as one. The image of Nataraja denotes an atom and also the universe. As an atom, the image, if you consider Nataraja's image as an atom, Nataraja is the nucleus. And the Prabha Mandala denotes the neutrons and protons and electrons and all these things that go around in the nucleus. The nucleus is not static. It's always dynamic and there's always an action. The nucleus is always vibrant. That vibrancy of the nucleus is the dance of Nataraja. So he is the minutest atom. The image of Nataraja that you see in the temples is a depiction of an atom. He is also depicted as the universe, which is for us to take it. If you consider the flames around the Nataraja image as a representation of galaxies that are moving around the orbit, which is so arithmetically in a well-set manner. Even our solar systems moves around the sun in a very, very automatic and rhythmic pattern. And that pattern of movement of all these planets around the sun itself is a dance. In a very well-set manner they move. Nataraja is the dynamic force controlling the entire whole movement of all these galaxies around this. That is why the dance of Nataraja is called as the cosmic dance by the Westerners. The image of Nataraja is a representation of an atom and universe in one. We saw it now. Nataraja is the only image of the god that blends philosophy, religion, art, science in one beautiful form. What you saw here and seeing now is the image of Nataraja in front of the CERN, European Organization of Nuclear Research in Geneva. This is a 6-foot-tall Nataraja image at the entrance, presented by the government of India to prove this world. Nataraja is the representation of cosmic, and the dance of Nataraja is the cosmic dance. Fritjof Capra says modern physics has shown the rhythm of creation and destruction is not only manifest in the turn of seasons, in birth and death of all living creatures, but also in inorganic matter for the physicist. Shiva's dance is that dance of that subatomic matter. He says further, what 1,000 years back our ancestors has created in the bronze image of Nataraja in Ananda Tandavam, physicists of our time have used most advanced technology to portray the patterns of the cosmic dance. This image of Nataraja unifies mythology and modern day physics as one. The image of Nataraja denotes him as a representation of the Panchabhutas, the 5 nature elements, Apu, Teyu, Prithvi, Vayu, or Akasha. The Agni that he holds in his hand and the Prabha Mandala, all around the Prabha Mandala, denotes the Agni Tattva of Nataraja. The space around the figure of Nataraja and the Prabha Mandala, the empty space, denotes the Akasha aspect of Nataraja, that he is dancing in the Akasha. So the Akasha aspect is denoted in the space around the Prabha Mandala of Nataraja and the image. Prithvi, the earth element, is represented in the lotus pedestal on which he is dancing. Lotus blooms from the earth. So when he is dancing on the lotus pedestal, that brings out the Prithvi Tattva of Nataraja. The Vayu, the air, is seen in the flowing jatas of Nataraja and the fluttering cloth around his waist. So the Vayu Tattva is depicted as the fluttering cloth and the flowing jatas of Nataraja. And finally, the Appu Tattva, the water element, is represented by the 2 makras that you see at the end of the Prabha Mandala, which goes and joins the Prabha Mandala, which is full of flames. So everything emerges from the water and comes up like that. So the Appu Tattva, or the water element, is seen in the representation of the 2 makras in the Prabhamandala. So he is represented as the Panchabhutas. So the Nataraja image alone represents the Panchabhutas. The dance of Shiva is the dance of 5 elements, says Tirumular. Kaadiyodu aadi, Kanakachalattadi, Kudiyodu aadi, Kuvalayatte aadi, Neediya neer Tikkal Neervan, Idayadi Nalura Ambalatte Adu Nadane in his Tirumandira. The sparkles of the gems and the diamonds that are buried in this earth is a dance. The beautiful glow of the sparkling light that comes out of the gems is a dance of Shiva. The splashing waves of the ocean is also the dance of Shiva. The flames that are the gulping fire is seen as the dancing aspect of Shiva. The gentle breeze and the cyclonic storm are all dancing aspects of Shiva. The flashing lightning of the space are one other form of the dance of Shiva. This is the dance he performs in Tillayambalam. So the dance of 5 elements is what you see of Nataraja performing in Tillayambalam. Tirumular enjoyed this dance of Shiva in all aspects, be it inside him or outside him. He sees all action as dance. He names them as Shivananda Kuttu, Sundara Kuttu, Purpadi Kuttu, Puntillai Kuttu, Arpuda Kuttu, and so on. He calls all these dances different forms of Kuttu. He explains this dance of Shiva in his Tirukuttu Darisanam. The tattva, the iconography of these Kuttus are very beautifully explained in the 82 stanzas of this great poem that has been created by Tirumular in Tirukuttu Darisanam. Now let's come to the iconography of Shiva as Nataraja. Amsat Vedagama describes very clearly that Nataraja images should be made only in bronzes as Utsav Murtis or processional deities. These images have to be made in Uttama Dasatala measurement, giving a graceful and majestic appearance. The Western philosophy is that our entire body is 8 times the size of our face. But when you see the image of Nataraja, it is the image in total is 10 times the size of the face. So that is called as Uttama Dasatala. Nataraja images are always accompanied by Devi Parvati by his side in the name of Shivakama Sundari. Nataraja, with this concept, Shivakama Sundari, is always housed separately in a hall called the Sabha Mandapam, and that Sabha Mandapam will always face south in all the Shiva temples all over this world. The upper left hand should hold the Agni. The Agni can be held in a cup or right on the palm. When the Agni is held in the palm, it should be end of the palm and not in the center, but has to be placed at the foot of the or the root of the middle finger. It's what the Agama explains. And look at this image also. The Agni is held there, right in the palm without the cup. The left hand of Nataraja should be in Dandahasta or the Gajahasta that you see here. The left hand should always be positioned across the body and the palm should be pointing to the raised foot of Nataraja. The front hand, right hand, should be held in Abhaya Mudra or the Abhaya pose. The forearm should have a Sarpa Vayala or the hissing snake. The hand that he shows the Abhay Mudra will always have a hissing snake around the hand. The middle finger should be positioned prominently in a Hikka Sutra. When you say Abhay Mudra, it could be positioned even in a 90-degree angle. But Nataraja images are said to be positioned in this way, which is slightly tilted, and that particular tilt is called as Hikka Sutra. The upper right arm should be holding the Damaru. The Damaru that he holds should be as if he's striking pose, denoting the emergence of the sound. It's very beautifully placed in such a way that he should denote that he's playing the Damaru and creating the sound out of the Damaru, which is shown very clearly in the images of Nataraja. The cobra with the open hood should always be coiled around the Damaru. That is also what it says in the Agamas, which is seen here in the figures of Nataraja. The right leg should be positioned, has to be slightly bent, and the foot has to be firmly placed on the Apaspara Purusha. That you see here, it should be slightly bent and placed on the Apaspara Purusha. It should not be straight. It should be slightly bent and placed firmly on the Apaspara Purusha. Shiva is to be adorned with anklets at the both ankles and his legs. The leg has to be raised and tilted, lifted up straight, and then later tilted. The knee should reach up to the nabi, that is the navel portion, and from there it has to be tilted. And it has to be tilted from the Nabi Sutra, it should be bent out. That's how the Nataraja image has to be standing there in the Zananda Tandava pose. The lifted leg should be towards the right side and kept across the image. Raised foot, what you see of Nataraja, is known as the Kunchita Padam. Look at the beautiful raised foot of Nataraja, the Kunchita Padam. Shiva's head should be seen with Jatamakutam and should be adorned with flowers and garlands. The Jata has to be decorated with Durdura flower that you see here, and the Arka Pushpas in between all these hairs. Jeweled ornaments should be there on the forehead of Shiva, which has been covered now in this way. A snake, that you see a snake, a skull, crane feathers are all supposed to be used for the decoration of Shiva's head. So that's how the Nataraja image should be there. The crescent moon has to be tied to the left of the Jatavakuta. It says very clearly you can make a crescent moon and tie it to the left of Nataraja's head here, or it could be even made there. The Jatas that is flowing out of Nataraja should be in the numbers of 5, 7, 9, or 11. It should be spread on either side, horizontally or in a circular position. The body of Shiva should be seen represented with Yajnopavita and Urasutra. Urasutra is just a chest bag. The face of Shiva should be shown with a smile, a gentle smile. Saffron and sandal paste is to be smeared on his chest, and bhasma should be smeared all over his body. Nataraja should be represented with rings on all the fingers and toes except the middle finger and the toe, which you see here in this picture. Except the middle finger in the hand and the toe. You see the rings all over the other fingers of Nataraja. Both the legs have to be adorned with anklets, thanda. This is thanda, and the belt anklets, which is called the kolusu, which you see here very beautifully in this image. The hands will have to be decorated with kankanas, and these kankanas have to be plain. It should not be ornamented kankanas. It should be a plain kankana, which you see here. Very beautifully depicted in this bronze image of Nataraja. The Apasmara Purusha under Shiva's foot should have his face to the right and the legs to the left. He should be shown playing with the snake in his hand and holding a cup in the other hand. You see the snake with which he is playing, and he's holding a cup here. The face of Apasmara Purusha should be lifted up and it should be facing Shiva. Look at the beautiful way of this Apasmara Purusha's depiction. He's shown so beautifully, looking and enjoying the dance of Shiva. The image has to be represented with the circular Prabha Mandala with 27 or 54 flames. The whole image has to be represented on top of a lotus pedestal, which you see here very clearly here. Devi Uma Parameshwari is always placed to the left of Nataraja separately, and she is Shivakama Sundari. This wonderful image of Nataraja, which we saw in the iconic representations, is from the Temple of Kolmam, very close to Uvalpet. A very beautiful 5 or 5.5 foot tall Nataraja, a Chola period creation of wonderful bronze of Nataraja. And this Nataraja absolutely fits in all aspects as explained in this Agama. What a beautiful Nataraja he is. Now coming to the dance of Shiva, it's called as Bhujangatrasa. What dance Nataraja did in the Ananda Tandava is known as Bhujangatrasa. This sculpture, this is the earliest sculpture of Shiva's dance seen in Bhujangatrasa from the Temple of Talvanu, created by Mahendra Pallava. Abhinava Guptacharya, the commentator of Bharata's Natya Shastra, says so on the Bhujangatrasa. He says, when a dancer while dancing, suddenly he lifts his leg as though he has discovered a snake very close by. And that moment, he appears to be in a state of unsteady gait. So he balances himself like that by lifting the leg. So that particular action of seeing a snake and lifting the leg and adjusting his body accordingly is known as Bhujangatrasa. This is how we see the Nataraja image today in Bhujangatrasa pose. He says one hand has to be in Dolahasta and the other hand has to be in the Katakahasta. That's of course, in dance, when it's represented, it comes like that. The Dolahasta should freely hang down and it should be in the Pataka pose. Again, this is for the Bharatanatyam Shastra, which comes from. The Makuta Agama and the Kamika Agama speak about 5 different forms of Bhujangatrasa. They call it as Bhujangatrasa Rupam, Bhujanga Lalitam, Bhujanga Bhairavam, Bhujanga Byalam, and Bhujanga Kunchitam. So there are 5 different types of Bhujangatrasa. Tirunjana Sambandar in his Tevaram mentions about Nataraja's dance as Bhujangatrasa Mathanam. So the dance of Shiva as Bhujangatrasa is also mentioned in the Tevaram of Tirunjana Sambandar. The Bhujangatrasa pose is the most familiar posture of Nataraja Murti all over this Tamil country. The dance of Shiva is known as Tandava. Agamas and other scriptures talk very elaborately about 7 such Tandavas. These are known as Sapta Tandavas. These were performed by Shiva on different occasions with Uma or at times alone. These Tandavas were performed by Shiva using the 108 Karanas. Apart from the 7 Tandavas, scriptures and Agamas also talk about many other Tandavas of Shiva. The Kamika Agama talks about 7 different Tandavas of Shiva with minor variations in their name as represented in other different scriptures. The 7 Tandavas are Ananda Tandavam, Sandhya Tandavam, Gauri Tandavam or Uma Tandavam, Tripura Tandavam, Kali Tandavam or Urdhava Tandavam, Muni Tandavam, also known as Shankara Tandavam, and the last one is the Samhara Tandavam. So these 7 aspects of Tandava is what is dealt very clearly in many of the Agamas and sculptures that we see here. Katyate Shivasreshtu Nrityam Sapta Vidhanam. Bhavayet Ananda Tandavam Purvam Sandhya Tandavam tu Tatparam. Gauri Tandavam Yevam tu Tata Tripura Tandavam. Kali Tandavam Chaiva Muninam Tasya Tandavam. Samhara Tandavam Ite Sapta Tandavaha. Now coming to Ananda Tandava. The image that you see here is the beautiful Ananda Tandava posture of Nataraja Murti from the Chola period of 9th century, now at the Smithsonian. This dance is a dance of bliss or joy that was performed by Shiva in Chidambaram. Shiva with 4 arms, with upper arms holding Damaru or Agni, the right front arm showing the Abhayhasta, and the left hand across, pointing out to the raised foot, as what we described earlier. Look at that beautiful image. The right foot bent at the knee slightly and firm fixed back on the Apasmara to represent then the Prabha Mandala and the Agni Jwala seen there. This is a wonderful depiction of Ananda Tandava Rupam, a creation of the Cholas on the basis of the Saiva Siddhanta, denoting the Panchakrityas and the cosmos in one particular form of Ananda Tandava Rupam. The same Ananda Tandava Rupam, apart from bronzes, are seen very well in the sculptures also. The one you see here is the beautiful sculpture of Nataraja as Ananda Tandava Murti, depicted in the big temple of Nataraja at Tanjavur. This is from the temple of Gangaikonda Cholapuram, built by son of Rajaraja, Rajendra Chola, a very beautiful depiction of Ananda Tandava Rupam of Shiva. Look at that beautiful form of Shiva. What a beautiful representation it is. The upper Tevaram of Kuritta Purvum Kovai Chevayil Kuvin Chiripum, Panitta Sharayum, Pavalampol, Nenil, Pal Vendirum, Ninita Udetta Porpadavum, Kana Petra, Manita Peraviyum, Vendavade, Manilate. That particular beautiful Tevaram fits into this wonderful creation of the Cholas. This is again a beautiful Nataraja of later period of maybe around 17th century in the Temple of Venganam, a beautiful creation of Nataraja in stone. We have many other sculptures as Koshta Devatas. Nataraja is seen as Koshta Devatas in many of the temples of the Cholas. The one that you see here is from the temple of Koneri Rajapuram, built by Chimbi and Madevi, the great queen of the Cholas. This is, unfortunately, today it is mutilated. This is one of the most wonderful Nataraja's image that I have seen ever in stone. This is a creation of the Vikrama Chola era in the Temple of Tukachi. Unfortunately, vandalism has taken its toll here, and both the arms and the leg of Nataraja has been cut off. But in spite of all these things, look at the beautiful grace that you see in this wonderful creation and the sculpture that you see here from Tukachi. This is again a Nataraja from the temple of Tiruvalishwaram, built by Rajaraja in the Tirunelveli district. A later creation of Nayak period of Nataraja, as seen in the Pudumandapam on the Kambatadi Mandapam of the Mother Meenakshi Amman temple here. Now we see Adavallar, the dance, Nataraja in bronze images. This is the most beautiful Nataraja, a creation during the time of Rajaraja Chola. Rajaraja Chola created 60 odd bronzes when he concentrated this temple of Tanjavur and donated them. This is the only bronze image which is surviving till today and still under worship. Look at the beautiful creation. What a wonderful depiction of Nataraja Murti in bronze of 10th century, along with this Devi Shivakama Sundari, which is still under worship in the temple of Bragadishwara at Tanjavur. Look at that beauty. Look at the way the hair is flowing all around. Look at the majestic way in which he is dancing. The movement of dance, the swell movement of the dance is very clearly seen here in this beautiful image of Nataraja. And this is one of the early period of Nataraja Murti, which is now under worship in the temple of Tiruvengade, which is known as Adi Chidambaram. This Nataraja is very, very similar to that of the Nataraja that is under worship at Chidambaram temple. They are almost similar, they look very much alike, including the Devi Shivakama Sundari, who is seen with two consorts on the side, Lakshmi and Saraswati by her side. And this is one of the most beautiful Nataraja, which is under worship in the temple of Tiruvengade. Again, a very early period Nataraja from the temple of Nateswara Swami at Kumbakonam. This is almost about 6 foot Nataraja, a very beautiful Nataraja, 6 foot tall Nataraja that they made in 10th century out of bronze. An amazing work of art. The beauty of what we saw in the explanation of the Jnana Sloka, there is a Dvajakinkini which is hanging, the bell is hanging there. Unfortunately, it's not seen in the figure here, but that tied up to the beautiful bell is still hanging. It is as cast like that. And here, the beauty is on the Shivakama Sundari. Every other place of Nataraja, you can see Shivakama Sundari standing there, very beautifully enjoying the dance of Nataraja. Here, she is seen playing the thala for the Nataraja's dance. A very beautiful image of Nataraja in the Nateswara Swami temple at Kumbakonam. Wonderful image. You should see that. Again, a very majestic Nataraja, 9 foot tall, in the temple of Koneri Rajapuram, which was known as Tirunellam in those days. A very beautiful Chola Nataraja, 9 foot tall Nataraja. This is considered as the biggest Nataraja of the early period. This Nataraja is supposed to be a self-manifested Nataraja. There's a story that goes behind this. The king had asked a Sthapati to concentrate a Nataraja of this size in the temple. Whenever the Stapati did the pouring of the metal inside the cast that he has made, there was always a mistake. Somewhere the metal did not flow and it was always discarded. So went on for almost so many times. He did almost 6-7 times. Every time it was a failure. The king ultimately gave him a time that he should finish this particular piece of Nataraja and give it to him on such and such day. So this man was so worried. He and his wife were doing this Nataraja. Then they were about to pour this metal inside this Nataraja. An old couple came there and they asked, the old couple came to this Stapati who was doing it and asked him to give some water to quench his thirst. This man was in a furious state of mind. He said, I am boiling here. I am trying to complete this particular, otherwise my life is doomed. I can't give you water or something. If you want, I don't have any water. Again, the old man was persistent, asking him to give something to quench his thirst. This man said, I am only boiling or molten metal here. If you want, you drink it. And he poured that molten metal on this old man's hand. That man drank, and immediately this Nataraja manifested from the cast that came. So that is why this Nataraja is great and is known as self-manifested Nataraja. Since he is a self-manifested Nataraja, you have all the features of a human being there. You can see the mole in his armpits and his hands are very rough. You can feel the roughness. The cheeks are rough as if it's a shaven face and things like that. This is a wonderful creation of Nataraja. A very beautiful creation of Nataraja, still under the worship of the temple at Koneri Rajapuram. And this is again a very beautiful Nataraja in a different posture of Tandava, belonging to a very early period, maybe the transition period from the Pallavas to the Cholas. Instead of raising his foot to the side, the right side, this Nataraja is raising his foot right into the front. And his hand is also not taken across his chest, but pointing out to the finger, which is raised in the front. And the Abhaya Mudra, instead of that, you have the Kataka Mudra. This is a wonderful Nataraja, a different kind of Nataraja, which is in the temple of Ananda Tandavapuram. This is again a beautiful creation of the Cholas, which is now under the temple, worship under the temple of Chapparai in Tirunelveli. What a beautiful creation of Chola Nataraja of early period. You can see it. It's amazing, amazing beauty. This particular Nataraja, unlike all the other Natarajas, which have 6 Abhishekams, this Nataraja has 96 Abhishekams done every year. It's a very beautiful Nataraja. And this temple is known as the earliest Tamarasabha. A lot of people mention Tamarasabha as Tirunelveli, Nelayapar Koil. But this Chepparai temple is considered as the Tamarasabha. And that's why it gets the name in Chase Tamil as Chepparai, that is Copper Sabha, Tamarasabha. And this is my Nataraja from Peru temple. What a beautiful representation. There could never be any other beautiful Nataraja. Look at the Panita Shadai. Look at the spine on his face. Look at the circular Prabha Mandala, not an oval Prabha Mandala. Look at the way he's raised his foot, giving the beautiful darshan of his Kunchita Padam. What a fantastic creation of the Chola period and the worship at the Peru temple. Look at his beauty from the rear. Panita Shadai. Panita Shadai means the jatas have to hang like that, like a snake's movement. It should flow like a snake's movement. That is what is seen here in this Panita Shadai. Look at the beautiful Kunchita Padam, the inner portion of his Kunchita Padam, and the inner portion of his hand pointing out to it. What a beautiful representation. Look at the Prabha Mandala. Look at the hairs. amazing beauty of our Chidambareshwara at the Mele Chidambaram of Peru. Now coming to the next Tandava, Sandhya Tandava. Sandhya Tandava is that dance of Shiva we dance during the Sayam Sandhya time, evening time. This was performed in a very joyful mood with a brisk footwork on the ground, and is seen without Apasmara Purusha. This is a beautiful image of Sandhya Tandava Murti at the rear of the sanctum of the Brihadishwara temple at Tanjavur. This is a beautiful sculpture created in stone, later painted by the Nayak period. And this Sandhya Murti has an opening door right in front of him, through which the sunset, time of sunset, the rays of sun comes and falls in on. And a special hartis were performed to him on a regular basis those days. And this is a beautiful representation of the Sandhya Tandava Murti at the Brihadishwara temple in Tanjavur. Coming to the next Tandava, Uma Tandava. This is again a joyful dance of Shiva, which he performed along with his consort Uma Devi. Shiva does this dance in his masculine form of Tandava, robust. He is joined by his consort Uma Devi in a very, very subtle dance known as Lasya, adding beauty and grace to the entire dance, which they performed as together as a couple. This is the Uma Tandava. The dance of Shiva and Uma together in Kailasha is known as the Uma Tandava. Shiva is dressed in all the ornaments. Ganga, he's seen with Ganga, the tiger string around his waist, and all the rustic flowers in his head, he dances with a robust manner. In contrast to that, Uma is dressed in silken robes with sparkling ornaments, making this Tandava a divine experience. One was rustic, another one was grace. The rustic and grace, a combination of this, is a divine experience that happened in Kailasha. And that Tandava of Shiva with Uma is known as Uma Tandava. Coming to the next one, Tripura Tandava. After the Tripura Samhara was performed by Shiva, where he destroyed the three asuras by just single laugh, a smile, Shiva performed a dance. This dance of victory was performed by Shiva on top of the chariot in which he went to do the Tripura Samhara. Devi Parvati also joined him, and that time she was known as Bharati. The dance that Shiva and Parvati did is referred in this Sangam literature of Silappadigaram, and they call the dance of Shiva along with Uma, done after Tripura Samhara on top of the chariot, as Pandarangam and Kodukotti. The victory dance of Shiva was joined by Parvati, and later they merged together as Ardhanarishwara and performed this dance. That dance, wonderful dance of Shiva, or Tandava of Shiva along with Parvati, after the Tripura Samhara, is known as the Tripura Tandava. Now coming to the Shankara Tandava. The dance of Shiva, with all his attributes, dances in a joyful mood in his Kailas. Gauri is seen by the left of Shiva, enjoying the graceful movements of Shiva as he dances. Nandi is always seen on the right of Shiva playing the drums. He also joins at times and dances along with Shiva. So that dance of Shiva along with Nandi also is known as Shankara Tandava. Nandi is the first student of Shiva who gave birth to the Natya Shastra when he explained it to the Bharata Muni. The next comes the Urdhva Tandava or the Kalika Tandava. This is the beautiful Urdhva Tandava Murti of the Tiruvalangadu, a wonderful bronze creation of the 10th century and the worship in the temple of Tiruvalangadu. Urdhva Tandava is that Tandava Shiva performed while dancing along with Kali. Just to win over Kali, he just lifted his leg above, and Kali could not do that. She considered her defeat. Kali and Shiva had a competition of dance to prove who was a great in dance. The competition was going tough, and both were excelling each other. When finally Shiva lifted his leg above his head, Kali could not perform, and she conceded to defeat. Puranas talk about this competition that happened at Tiruvalangadu. Urdhva Tandava in sculptures. See here the beautiful sculpture of Urdhva Tandava Murti as seen in the temple of Kailashnatha at Kanchipuram. Again, this is one of the beautiful Urdhva Tandava Murti, the Chola temples in near Villupuram. And again, this is a beautiful Urdhva Tandava Murti of later period, during the Nayak period, in one of the temples in Andhra Pradesh. And this is again an excellent Urdhva Tandava Murti of the Nayak era, found in the Temple of Tukachi, Vishwanatha Swami Temple, a wonderful sculpture of this Urdhva Tandava Murti. They have one more Urdhva Tandava Murti also there. And this is again a Nayak period creation of the wonderful form of Shiva as Urdhva Tandava Murti from the Pudu Mandapam built by Tirumala Nayakar in front of the Meenakshi Amma temple at Madurai. This is the Urdhva Tandava Murti, the Parashiva of Peru. Look at this wonderful sculpture of Shiva as Urdhva Tandava, multiple arms, and so beautifully seen here. He's seen as Parashiva. Here, people mistake it to be Brahma and Vishnu, but actually it is Rudra and Vishnu. Here, Rudra has got the 5 faces. If Rudra or Shiva has got 5 faces, and what is this? This is the Parashiva, the above the Shiva. He is contemplated as the universe, and that is Parashiva doing the Urdhva Tandavam at the temple of Peru. Look at the way he's doing the dance. He's just lifting up the earring that fell down. He lifted the earring in his toes and takes it by the hand and readorns it back here. This is a beautiful depiction of that. Tiruvalanga, the bronze murti, which is under worship there. Look at that wonderful Urdhva Tandava Murti at Tiruvalanga. This is the bronze image of Shiva and Kali of Tiruvalanga. And this is again one of the Urdhva Tandava Murtis of modern day's creation. Now, slightly away from the Urdhva Tandava, or close to Urdhva Tandava, is again one of the Karadas, which is known as Urdhvajana. One leg of Shiva is bent fully and raised above the Nabhi Sutra. And then Shiva dances like that, raising one leg alone, bent close to his navel portion. It's called as Urdhvajana. This is a Urdhvajana sculpture of Shiva seen from the Madhya Pradesh region. Again, a similar Urdhvajana of Nataraja seen from the Madhya Pradesh region in Gwalior. Again, a beautiful Urdhvajana of Nateswara from the Kailashanatha temple built by Rajashima Pallava at Kanchipuram. This is the miniature depiction of Urdujana posts of Shiva from the temple of Pullamangai built by the Cholas in the 9th century. This is the most wonderful Urdujana bronze which is available, one of the only bronze available today, and that is the creation of the Pallava era from the temple of Kurappa. Today, this wonderful image is there in the Chennai Museum Art Gallery. It's one of the most beautiful creations of the Pallavas. Now, coming to the next Tandava of Shiva is known as Chatura Tandava. Chatura Tandava is one of the dance karanas of Shiva, although it's called as Tandava. Shiva dances with 4 or multiple arms on a plain ground or on top of Apasmara Purusha. Both the legs are bent and spread wide, and the foot are brought close together like what you see here. In this is a image from the Pullamangai temple, and the earlier one was from Pattadakal. The gap between the 2 legs creates a square formation, and that's why it's called as Chatura Tandava. Look at this. Again, a sculpture from the North Indian temple where Shiva is doing the Chatura Tandava. This is a Chatura Tandava from the Kailasha temple of Ellora. Again, a Chatura Tandava of Shiva seen from the temple of Belu, Chennakeswara Swami temple at Belu. And this is from the rocket cave temple of the Pandyas at Tirumalapura. Now we see the Chatura Tandava in bronzes. A wonderful bronze still under worship in the temple of Kodumudi. What a beautiful bronze of Shiva in Chatura Tandava. Perfect square shape with the placement of the legs. You can see that. Beautiful bronze image, which is still under worship, is seen dancing without the Apasmara Purusha. And this again, the most wonderful Chatura Tandava bronze in the National Gallery of at New Delhi. This is from the temple of Tiruvaranguram in Pudukkottai district, an amazing Chola bronze of Tiruvaranguram at the National Gallery. Look at that, amazing, it's beautiful. Again, the same Tiruvaranguram Nataraja, seen doing the Chatura. The perfection of the square in formation is seen very beautifully in this wonderful bronze creation. And the outstanding of all these things is this Chatura Tandava of Nallur Nataraja. This is a beautiful 8-arm Nataraja dancing on top of the Apasmara Purusha's head with a perfect square formation with its leg, a Chatura Tandava. This is still under worship, but kept for safe custody, and it comes out during the festival time, and pujas are performed for this long. This is a beautiful Chatura Tandava image of bronze image of the transition period. It's been attributed to be the Pallava origin, even before the Cholas had made this Chatura Tandava. It's one of the outstanding Chatura Tandava representations of Nataraja. Next comes the Lalita Tandava. Now see this image of what you see here. This is a form of Karana known as Lalita, found in many sculptures. This is from the bronze image that you see here. Shiva's both foot are placed on the ground and not on top of the Apasmara Purusha. He is seen with 4 arms or multiple arms whatsoever be. One foot is placed on the ground, and the other foot is bent at the toe, touching the ground, and the heel is raised up as if he's tapping to the tala. The tala for the dance. He's tapping to that and doing the dance. And that tapping movement of foot, if it's shown in the sculptures, it is known as Lalita Tandavam, though it's Karana. This is one of the most wonderful Lalita Tandava posture of Shiva Nataraja seen from the cave temple of Badami, created by Chalukyas in the 7th century. Amazing representation of Lalita Tandava of Shiva. This is again from the Ellora, created by the Rashtrakuta kings. Again, one more sculpture of Shiva doing this Lalita Tandava from Ellora. And this is from the museum belonging to the Central India region, where Shiva is seen with doing the Lalita Tandava posture. It is from the Gwalior Museum. So many sculptures are seen in Lalita Tandava. This is from the Pattadakkal temple. Again, this is from the Kailasha temple on the roof. This wonderful sculpture is etched on the roof. The entire temple is scooped out of a live rock. And this sculpture is made right there on top of the roof, which you have to look up and see. What a beautiful creation of Lalita Tandava of Shiva there. And this is from the elephant. Though the legs are all chopped, we can imagine from this particular posture, this should have been only a Lalita Tandava. And this is from the wonderful temple of Bhoganandishwara of the Ganga kings in close to Doddaballapur near Bangalore. This is a beautiful creation of Shiva as Lalita Tandava in that temple of Bhoganandishwara. And this is the Nataraja in Lalita Tandava from our temple of Chidambaram. And this is again a Shiva Nataraja dancing in Lalita Tandava in one of the sculptures from the Central India, Madhya Pradesh. Now coming to the Nataraja representations in Odisha. Nataraja is always seen doing this Lalita Tandava only in these postures, mainly seen in all the sculptures in Odisha. And all the Nataraja images are always represented with Urdhva Linga, which shows Shiva in ecstasy. All these are from the temple of Parashurameshwara and Bhuvaneshwar. This is from the Rajarani temple at Bhuvaneshwar. This is from the museum where Shiva is doing the dance in Lalita. Parvati is seen there by the side, and Shiva is represented with Urdhva Linga. Again, this is from the Odisha temple, Parashurameshwara temple, where Shiva is seen with the Urdhva Linga also. And this is also from the temple at Odisha, in Odisha. The Mukteshwar temple and the Parashurameshwar temple have got plenty of representation of this Shiva dancing in Lalita. This is from the Parashurameshwara temple that you see here. And this is the wonderful Nataraja in Lalita Tandavam from the temple of Mukteshwar in Bhuvaneshwar. Look at that wonderful way in which Shiva is dancing, Lalita Tandavam. Slightly away from this Lalita Tandavam is a dance pose called Swastika Tandavam. They call it, it's a Swastika Tandavam. The legs cross each other. And the tapping also happens at the time, simultaneously. So this particular aspect of dancing is called as Swastika Tandavam. own. This is also a Nritya Karana, where two legs are crossed in the front or at the back, forming a Swastika posture. The crossed leg position is in Katisamanam in the Nritya Shastra. It is called as Katisamanam in the Nritya Shastra. It's very rare to see this swastika posture in sculpture or bronzes, but our ancestors have never left all these things. There are many representations of the swastika as in bronzes also. This is the wonderful bronze image of 8-armed Nataraja dancing the swastika, which is still under worship in the temple of Kevalu, very close to Tiruvallur. Again, this is the swastika dance of Shiva, a chola image, which is the leg is behind, and this dance on posture, this bronze is under worship in the temple called Somangalam, very close to Chennai. Now we come to Nateswara of the Pala region. The Bengal region under the Pala dynasty worshipped Shiva as Nateswara, Bhairava, Kankala, and Virupaksha. Shiva is always shown dancing on top of a bull in the Lalita posture. He is seen with multiple arms, maybe 8, 10, and all carrying different weapons. The upper two arms of these depictions are always shown above the head as if he's clapping for his dance, holding on to the tala to which he's dancing. All the Pala images, you will have this clapping posture of Nateswara. Shiva is always shown again with the Urdhva Linga, which is the form of cult that is followed there in the Pala region, like Bengal region and the Odisha region. This is again a Pala Nataraja, seen dancing on top of the bull. Look at the way the bull has turned its head, admiring the dance of Shiva. He's seen playing Veena. It is a dance of omniscience, and the Nataraja, Dakshinamurti, Veenadara, the Lord of supreme knowledge, is music and dance. The position of Shiva's dance is known as Vaishaka Sthana. The upper hands are clapping and maintaining to the tala, and the hands below are holding the snake. You can see it here. Holding on to the tala, playing the veena, and he's also holding the snake. These two concerts, Ganga and Gauri, are also seen by his sides. This is the beautiful bronze image of the Palas, which was brought out as a war trophy by Rajendra Chola when he conquered the Pala region. He brought it and kept it in the worship at the Melakadambur temple. This is just about 18-inch tall, beautiful Nataraja of Pala region, which is still under worship. And what a beautiful bronze it is. Devalti and Pararaja, Pala Nataraja is shown, seen with the sword, much exemplified one. He is shown with the sword as a destroyer of all the fears. Adhyatmika, Adibhautika, and Advaitika. In other words, flashing the sword also cuts deep-rooted ignorance, and the sword also represents knowledge. Here, the absence of Apasmara Purusha is shown as Maya, and the action shows that he drives away the Maya. Look at the beautiful bronze of the Pala Nataraja with the Prabha Mandala and the Ashta Bhairavas dancing along with him These two concepts, Ganga and Gauri, Ganesha and Skanda, and all the Gandharvas on the top are very beautiful image of the Nataraja of Pala region. Look at that. The rear portion of Nataraja in Swastika, in the Lalita, with a beautiful Chaturat pattern posture also, forming the Chaturat. Now we come to a very different Nataraja, taken from the archives of the Pondicherry thing. This is under worship at the Temple of Tiruvakkara. He is known as Vakkara Nataraja. The leg is folded straight in the Nabhi Sutra, and the other leg is placed on Apasmara Purusha. We saw Apasmara Purusha is seen always seeing the face of Nataraja, but here Apasmara Purusha is facing the front. And here the Shiva hand is not stretched across, but totally points almost brought right up to the front. And instead of the Abhay Mudra, he is seen with the Kataka Mudra. So this is a very rare Nataraja, which is worshipped in the temple of Tiruvakkara. This is a beautiful Nataraja of Tiruvakkara. The usual Jata Muktabs and the flowing Jatas are not seen here. Instead, he's got a beautiful crown studded with all the moon, everything. And this is the Vakkara Nataraja. Now coming to Samhara Pandava. The Samhara Pandava posture of Nataraja is also seen here, this is the Triple Samhara Pandava, they call it. And this is the Kala Samhara Pandava. Both the sculptures are from the temple of Kodumbalu. You have similar Samhara Pandava sculptures all over. This is the Gajasamhara Pandavam from the Velu temple. This again from the Halibut temple, Gajasamhara Pandava Murti. We have another Pandava representation from the Halibut temple. Again, this is the Andakasura Samhara Pandavam from the Halibut temple. And you have another beautiful Tandava posture of Shiva from the same Halibut temple. And this is the Bhairava Tandava of Shiva. All these are Samhara Pandavas. Not only here, Nataraja is seen representation even in Cambodia. Nateswara, the beautiful temple of the jewel of Cambodian architecture, you see the Nataraja image there. Dancing in Chaturtandavam in Lalita pose with multiple arms in Nateswara. And what is so interesting here is the image of Karika Lamia, who is seated there, playing the cymbals for the dance of Nataraja, which was a boon that he wished and was given and granted by Shiva. That is from the Cambodia Temple of Nateswara. Now coming to Shiva's dancing halls. Karakasabha, the Ananda Pandava, was performed by Shiva here in Karakasabha at Chidambaram, the hall, Golden Hall. Rajita Sabha is the Kalmari Adiya Tandavam or the Sandhya Tandavam, which is seen in Madurai. A Pandya king made a request to Shiva Nataraja, how long are dancing with one leg raised up like that? Don't you need some rest? And why don't you dance with a different leg also? And to that wish of the Pandya king, Shiva danced by changing his leg, and that's known as Kalmari Adiya Tandav or Sandhya Tandav. He is seen in the Rajita Sabha or the Silver Hall in Madurai. Tiruvalangadu, we saw the bronze, beautiful bronze, along with Kali, he danced. And that dancing hall of Shiva at Tiruvalangadu is known as Ratna Sabha. He danced the hall that was studded with gems and jewels once upon a time. And here what you see is the Chitra Sabha or Tripura Tandava.
This is at Tirukutrala. Here, Nataraja Murti is not worshipped in the form of a bronze or a statue or anything. Here, he is just worshipped as a chitra. The entire Sabha Mandapam is painted with beautiful themes from Tiruvayada Puranam and Puranam and so on. So Nataraja is seen as Chitra Murti, and this is Chitra Sabha. And coming to the Tamara Sabha. Tamara Sabha is known for its Gauri Tandavam, which he performed in Tirunelveli. The entire hall in which Nataraja dance is made of copper sheets, and copper sheets are laid over that, and it's a beautiful Tamara Sabha. So we saw this Nataraja's dance that happened in the 5 different places. These are known as the Panchasabhas, which are so important to us in the Nataraja worship. The cosmic dancer Nateswara, whichever form of Pandava he represents in sculptures and in bronzes in our temples, there is no match to the most beautiful representation of Ananda Tandava bronzes created by the great Cholas from the 10th century onwards, which is a representation of vibrant action of dance, fused as one, symbolizing the atom and universe as one. Thousands of such wonderful Natarajas are created by unknown artists under the Cholas for over 400 years and installed in different temples that have captivated the devotees by sheer beauty and the magnificence, and also the philosophy of Saiva Siddhanta. I dedicate this to the holy feet of En Ullam Kavarnda Kalvam. Tekthirnyana Sambandasya, Todudeya Shadiyan, Vidayerum, Tu Venmadi Sudi, Kadudeya Shudale Pudipusi, En Ullam Kavar Kalvam. He is my Ullam Kavar Kalvam, the Shiva Chidambareshwara of Mele Chidambara. Thank you. Any questions? I will take that. Thank you very much for being here and going through this lecture. Thank you again.